So the NBA also happens to have a Rona problem. So I think the biggest story is coming with that whole situation. Andrew Wiggins, LeBron James versus Inez Cantor, and Kyrie Irving.
Yeah. Thought that was your block. My niggas ran that. Them niggas big pussy. Pass me a Tampax. Selling that powwow. I got that anthrax.
I think it was interesting the way that the story with LeBron was handled, as opposed to the other athletes who chose not to take the vaccine. You know, mainly Andrew Wiggins and Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving. You know, because I didn't, and forgive me if I just haven't seen it, but like I haven't seen people pressuring LeBron all of these months. Like I didn't even know LeBron wasn't vaccinated until recently. You know, so
is he not still? I thought he was vaccinated now.
No, he is. That's why I say I didn't know he wasn't vaccinated until recently. Like I didn't know it was, this long. Mm-hmm. And it was just, interesting to see them kind of treat him with the kid gloves, and yet everyone else is kind of open season on. Now, I will say some people are kind of open season just because of the stuff that they say. Like I wasn't a fan of Bradley Beal's response. Like it's as simple as it's my choice, and I'll address that as I see fit. Let's move on. Like I feel like Kyrie had the most, even though they're the most hyperbolic about him, and they obviously his response is going to get the most play. But I feel like he had the most mature response to it. It was like, look, man, I'm gonna make whatever decision I make about my health myself. And it kind of is what it is. I didn't hear him spout any misinformation like Bradley Beal. I didn't hear him, pushing any fringe theories like you see a lot of these, the conservative TV personalities and things of that nature, and certain podcasters who shall go unnamed. I didn't hear him do any of that. Didn't hear Draymond do any of that. I heard Draymond talk about the politicization of it all, which I think is very self-evident when you have LeBron James finally deciding to get vaccinated, and it's this championing call. Like, oh man, shout out to LeBron for finally getting vaccinated, even though y'all done laid off of him for all these months while he was calling everyone else a Trump supporter, right? So that in itself confirms the politicization of it all. But I'll
tell you what I see. Oh, my fault.
No, go ahead.
I'll tell you what I see interesting is the fact that obviously LeBron just got his own vaccine and now doesn't really want to be champion and is some sort of spokesperson for it. In fact, no star in the NBA really seems like they want to be the poster child for getting vaccinated.
Yeah.
And obviously you see a lot of people who are against vaccinations. So I just think it's weird that the NBA has a struggle in trying to find that person to actually be outright and forthcoming about, I think we should get the vaccinations.
In doing that though. And because here's the thing, right? And this has been my position this entire time about this in terms of getting people vaccinated. Health officials in the media, when it comes to this pandemic, it is not your job to drive divisions behind this stuff, right? And even though that's what gets ratings and playing to your side is kind of how we got into all of this shit, but that's not your job. Your job is to continue to present the information as it changes and give it to people, right? But when you come out here and you characterize an entire group of people who have made a certain decision, which can be an amalgamation of a whole bunch of people who have varying political views, and you try to generalize them and stigmatize the choice, right? You're stigmatizing the choice as being one of a certain type of person, right? You're trying to characterize these people in a certain way that A, drives them even further away from you, right? In your point of view. And B, makes them more skeptical of information that you may bring them going forward, right? Like we've gotten so deep into this idea of everyone needing to have a side that it's gotten into places where I feel like it doesn't. And I agree with some of what Draymond said. Like, it's one thing to continue to give the information and continue to combat, certain rebuttals and things like that, and meeting those concerns head on, right? It's funny because we talked about this. I talked about skepticism about the vaccine and things like that, and where that comes in our community in particular. When stuff like that happens and you don't even acknowledge the why behind the skepticism, when you come out and you just talk about and you try to demonize the people who don't agree with you, and then you don't acknowledge the why as to why they may not believe you so readily, it only reinforces the skepticism. Yep. So yep. I think that, people out here spreading misinformation are of a totally different camp, and I understand their role that they play in this as well. Again, Bradley Beal talking about people still getting COVID behind the vaccine. Let me say it for the people in the back. The vaccine does not stop you from getting COVID, but it will stop your ass from going to the ICU, and it'll stop you from spreading it to other people who may end up in the ICU. That's what the vaccine is for. If we stop the spread, then we can start getting back to normal life. I don't know, man. I can't champion bodily autonomy and then force someone to put something in their body that they don't want to. If they came out with a pneumonia vaccine, and pneumonia puts you in ICU, they came out with a pneumonia vaccine tomorrow, I don't know if I'd be taking it. Right? It took me time myself to see certain examples, to see certain people that I knew and trusted get it, tell me what's going on, how you feeling, what's going on, talking to certain people that I know that are medical professionals. And then I finally made the decision that was right for me to go ahead and do it. But it took me time. I just didn't listen to 10 TV Eyewitness News and be like, oh, okay, well, I guess I got all these. You know what I mean? And I'm not out here looking for fringe theorist YouTubers to guide me either. Like I took the information as it came. When I stopped hearing about fucking vaccines getting pulled off the market, stopped hearing about blood clots so much and shit like that, I felt comfortable enough to go ahead and pick one and go forward. But you have to allow people the opportunity to do that for themselves. You can't force feed it to them, I feel like.
Absolutely. I think the other problem for the NBA is, now some of these cities are having mandates as it pertains to pro athletes and, their arenas and things like that. So that kind of came into play with Andrew Wiggins. And I think it's also in New York. So San Francisco and New York had these mandates. And obviously more cities are going to start kind of having these mandates, which is going to create a problem for the NBA, as obviously there's a lot of anti-vaxxers. Thoughts on that?
They have the right to do that. I mean, your job is another thing. We talk about that all the time. Like, you enter into an employment contract with somebody, you're signing up to follow their rules to get paid. And so employment is an entirely different sphere. I don't think that, you should be forcing any just regular old citizen. I don't think that's the government's place, but in an employment situation, I mean, that it kind of is what it is. I think it's interesting because along with that legislation that you're talking about with the athletes, I know very early on, like here in Ohio, for instance, with what's our damn governor's name? DeWine. One of the first things that he enacted legislatively behind COVID was a bill that gave protections or absolved companies for liability behind COVID, like employees catching COVID. So it's an interesting spot to be in for certain, because I think that type of legislation was mirrored across the country. So to have that protection in place, you would think it's a little unnecessary to mandate that all the athletes. Well, I mean, I guess not, because it could still cost you games and things of that nature. But thinking that they're covered, in terms of liability, you think that they wouldn't stress it as much. But again, I guess in a competitive sport where you could potentially be losing players for weeks because of COVID protocols, it's just home like games. The NFL, man. Yeah, so it makes sense. Hey man, y'all don't want companies to have that much power to regulate them. I don't know what else to tell you.
Hey, y'all going? Where y'all going? You a legend.
Thanks for watching another Back of the Bus Squad episode. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe.
Want to check out another episode related to this, go ahead and click that video to the left.
And if you want to catch up on some of our other episodes, make sure you click the playlist below.